and welcome back to another week in new genre books. Thanks for stopping by. We're so glad you're here. My name is Amelia, and from Locus magazine, I'm about to tell you the top new science fiction, fantasy, and horror books being published the week of November 29th, 2022. Please like and subscribe. I know it's easy to tune out and think someone else will do it, but it keeps us going. Also, please go check out our Indiegogo fundraiser for Locus that is running this month. We are a donor-supported magazine and need your help to get us through 2023. We have lots of good donor swag like signed books, author chats, there's a Locus coffee mug, a t-shirt, check it out. The link is in the notes below. Anyway, books. We like them, we want to know what's coming out. I've got links for timing if you want to skip to your favorite category, be it science fiction, fantasy, or horror. Starting with science fiction books this week, we have 2 SF titles being published this week. It's a light week. Sometimes this happens toward the end of the month. From Aliette de Bodard, who writes both fantasy and science fiction, we saw The Red Scholar's Wake, out from Jab Books in hardcover and ebook. This is a science fiction novel about a lesbian tech scavenger in a marriage of convenience with a sentient pirate spaceship. This is not a phrase I think has existed in this language before. Let us say it again, because how great is that? A marriage of convenience with a sentient pirate spaceship. From Gwendolyn Clare, we saw In the City of Time, out from Fywell and Friends in hardcover and ebook. This is a young adult time travel novel, the first in the eponymous duology, set in the world of ink, iron, and glass. In 1891, a young researcher discovers a mysterious signal, while in 2034, a cataclysm has rendered Earth uninhabitable, and attempting to use a time machine to set the past right only makes things worse. See, I think the problem with this is largely philosophical. Right and wrong are judgment calls, so setting the past right is already super subjective. Next up, horror. 4 titles this week. From Isaac Fellman, we saw The Two Doctors Górski, out from Tor.com in trade paperback and ebook. This is a dark fantasy novella. Ane, a grad student in psychiatric magic who can read minds, learns how one Dr. Górski, an academic magician, turned himself into 2 by putting his undesirable qualities, kindness, charm, empathy, into a homunculus. One must imagine this means he kept his more desirable qualities in his main body, which makes me question what those qualities were and what he's up to now, if kindness and empathy were getting in his way. From the talented anthologist and editor Ellen Datlow, we saw The Best Horror of the Year, volume 14, out from Nightshade Books in trade paperback and ebook. This is a year's best anthology. Includes a summation of the year in horror by Datlow and a list of honorable mentions. Authors include Neil Gaiman, Stephen King, Stephen Graham Jones, Joyce Carol Oates, Laird Barron, and Mira Grant. From Nicholas Kaufmann, we saw The Stone Serpent, out from Macabre Inc. in trade paperback and ebook. This is a horror novel sequel to The Hungry Earth. Medical examiner Dr. Laura Powell investigates how a man who died that day could leave a petrified corpse. Petrified like made into rock, we must assume, not petrified like scared to death. From Deba Zargapur, we saw House of Yesterday, out from Farrar, Straugh, and Giroux in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a paranormal ghost story. Sarah spots a youthful apparition of her grandmother and starts digging into her past. Finally, let's get at fantasy books. I've got 9 new fantasy titles I'm going to tell you about that are coming out this week. From Michael Fessier, we saw Fully Dressed and in His Right Mind, which is a great title, out from Staccato Crime in trade paperback. This is a collection of the title noir crime novel with fantasy elements, first out from Knopf in 1935, plus 3 stories from 1953. Introduction by David Rachels. From Brian Lee Durfee, we saw The Lonesome Crown, out from Saga Press in trade paperback and ebook. This is a genre-bending epic fantasy, 3rd and final in the 5 Warrior Angels trilogy. When an apocalyptic crusade comes to the remote border of Golconda, the belief that magic isn't real is shattered, as is the tenuous piece that held the 5 Isles together. From Shea Ernshaw, we saw A Wilderness of Stars, out from Simon & Schuster in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a young adult fantasy novel. An illness cursing the land forces a teen girl astronomer to venture across the wilderness in search of the star's message that will hopefully save them all. From Christine Feehan, we saw Leopard Scar, out from Jove in paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a shapeshifter paranormal romance, 14th in the Leopard series. Mei Ling rescues a deadly leopard shifter, leading to a dangerous mutual attraction. From R.B. Lemberg, we saw Geometries of Belonging and Other Stories out from Fairwood Press in trade paperback and ebook. This is a collection of 11 pieces of poetry and prose in the Birdverse series, One New. From Alison Pang, we saw Magpie's Flight out from Outland Entertainment in trade paperback and ebook. This is a fantasy novel, third in the Ironheart Chronicles series. Maggie has reached the floating city of Meridian, where she intends to fight for the rights of other moon children stuck in the pits. From Michelle Segarra, we saw Cast in Eternity out from Mira in trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy novel, 17th in the Chronicles of Elantra series. Kaylin becomes concerned about an elderly woman who likes to report things told to her by ghosts. From J.R. Ward, we saw Forever out from Pocket in paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a paranormal romance novel, the second in the Lair of the Wolven series, set in the Black Dagger Brotherhood world. Finally, from Adrienne Young, we saw Saint out from Wednesday Books in hardcover and ebook. This is a young adult fantasy novel. The young man called Saint has a reputation of piety, but his belief in the myths and legends of the sea is tested by a young woman with secrets. All these characters have secrets. They always have secrets. So many characters in these books I'm telling you about with so many secrets. Do you notice how hard we work not to spoil anything? No spoilies, no spoilies. And look, we know the list is short this week. Let me pop in a mention of a title that was published recently in our semi-regular section that I occasionally remember to tell you is called In Case You Missed It. I want to tell you about The Mountain in the Sea by Ray Naylor, which came out from MCD in hardcover in October 2022. Gary K. Wolfe, in his review in Locus, says this. Here's another genre term that seems to have shifted meaning over time. For a field that sometimes proudly calls itself speculative fiction, an upscale term designed to get you invited to more parties than science fiction, would most SF features remarkably few scenarios in which characters actively speculate about much of anything. I guess the argument is that the speculation is involved in the construction of the story world, not in the thoughts of particular characters, but still. In Ray Naylor's remarkable first novel, The Mountain in the Sea, though, the main characters are speculating all the time about consciousness, perception, communication, language, neural structures, corporate greed, social organization, environmental depredation, artificial intelligence, and most of all, octopuses. Far from bogging down the narrative into a series of info dumps and as you know Bobs, those speculations form the core of the novel, and Naylor presents them with such immediacy and passion that the intellectual adventure is as compelling, more compelling really, than his tale of corporate intrigue, high seas adventure, and characters dealing with past traumas while searching for some sort of identity. It's also a first contact tale, though the alien intelligences come not from space, but from our own oceans, while at the same time being a shrewd critique of first contact tales, somewhat in the manner that Kim Stanley Robinson's Aurora was a critique of Generation Starship sagas. This isn't a first contact story, says Naylor's main character, where humanity achieves enlightenment because we finally realized we aren't alone in the universe and we all hold hands and sing around a campfire together, staring up at the stars. We don't have the capacity as a species for a happy ending like that. Anyway, I think we've mentioned that book before, but I wanted to quote Gary's review at some length because the book sounds great. That wraps up this week. Thanks for spending some time with us. At Locus, we want to tell you everything relevant that's happening in the science fiction, fantasy, horror publishing space. We appreciate your eyes and ears and your likes and subscribes. If you've already done it, tell your friend. We are at Locus Mag or at Locus Magazine on most platforms. And remember, we need your crowdfunding support this month for our 2023 year. If you like what we do, please go check out our Indiegogo fundraiser right now. Get yourself some donor swag like rare signed books, author chats, story critiques, t-shirts, acts of whimsy, so much good stuff, and show a little love. This magazine and this YouTube channel are a labor of love. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. Come back and see us again soon, and we'll be here next week with more new books.